Hi everyone, welcome back to A Town Called Yarn, obviously not a real town. This is my place on the internet where I like to talk about knitting, crochet, yarn, that kind of thing. My name's Harrison, I am 28 and I live in the south of England, and this is episode 4 of these kind of podcasts that I've been doing. It's been 3 weeks since I last posted. Normally I've been posting these every other week. I say normally, I've only done that 3 times. But life's been kind of hectic over the past few weeks. So I had to skip last week's, and then I'm back because I've got some time off work this weekend. So I've been able to kind of make some time to do this. I've done a fair bit of crafting, more than I thought I would. Like I said, life's been a bit hectic. June for me is... I don't know what those beeps were. June for me is quite a busy month from kind of just life events. So my anniversary is in June, my mum's birthday is in June, and my boyfriend's birthday is in June, all in the space of 8 days. So that's kind of what happened at the end of June that meant I didn't really have a lot of time for this. But other than that, work was really busy. I work in marketing and everything kind of happens in this part of the year, both for all the stuff that's already happened in the year, but then also we're kind of planning for all the stuff that's happening at the end of the year. So that's been quite hectic and will continue to be hectic for the rest of the year, really. So there's not really any respite there. But luckily, most of the birthdays and kind of big life events have happened. I've got my birthday's in August, which I don't really have to do anything for, and then my sister's birthday's this month. But I feel well prepared for that, so we're all good. Something related to that I'll talk about when I go through my whips. But other than that, I don't think a lot's been going on. There was an election in the UK, so we've just got a new government, which is good news from my perspective. So that's, I say exciting, not necessarily the most exciting, but we voted on the 4th of July, found out yesterday for me, which is the Friday, that we've got a new government. If you're in America, I think it was Independence Day. I don't think I know it was Independence Day on July 4th. So hopefully if you celebrated that, you had a good time. But other than that, I think it's probably worth getting into some crafting. So what have I got today? So I've got a few whips. I've made some good progress on some whips. And I've started one new thing properly, and then I've kind of started another thing, which I'll go through. And then I've got a bit of a yarn haul. A lot of yarn kind of all turned up at once. If I'd have filmed this on Thursday, I'd have had like one thing to show you. But since then, a load of other things came in. So I'll go through that after I've gone through my whips. And then I've got some plans and some things I'll talk about at the end in terms of things that I'm thinking about a bit more long term. But let's start with whips. So let's start with my faded undulation shawl. So this is the faded undulation shawl by Stephen West, or West Knits. And I am using, the pattern calls for a 5-colour fade. I'm doing mine as a 4-colour because that's the yarn I had. And my gauge is a bit looser, so I find that I'm going to get the right size based on 4 colours using 4 balls of yarn. And I am using 4 colours. Let me just do this without getting... so I'm using 4 colours of Finger and Wet Yarn by Bellica yarns, which don't have names, but I got them from the Southern Wool Show last year. And I am tangled, and I didn't really know what I was going to do with them when I bought them. For some reason I went to the Southern Wool Show and I'd written in my notes for things I wanted to buy that I wanted a green fade of yarn. And luckily this pattern worked out, because otherwise I probably wouldn't have touched it for a while. So this is where I'm up to at the moment. So where is my stitch marker? So if you can see that stitch marker there, so that's where I was 3 weeks ago. So what I've done is I've actually since then dropped colour 1, and I'm now into the section that is just colour 2, so just the slightly darker green shade there. And then I will keep working on a small section that's just colour 2 before I add in colour 3, which I'm looking forward to. It's kind of, I've slowed down. I probably would have made a lot more progress on this if it wasn't for another whip that I started that I'll talk about, because I kind of got quite into that. But I'm really enjoying this. The pattern's in my head, so I'm finding it really quite straightforward. And I'm doing this on Leica interchangeable 3.75mm needles, which is one size up from what the pattern calls for. And then I've already balled up or caked up my next colour. So this is the third colour that I'll be adding in, and I'll be doing that probably by the next time I film. I reckon I'll be on to the third colour, because I'm going to try and focus on this a little bit more going forward, because my plan is to get this done for September. So that's this year's Southern Wool Show. I think it'd be good if I could use at least one bit of the wool that I bought before the following year when I inevitably buy more. And I'm storing that in one of my butternut handmade bags, which I really like. So they're from Etsy. This is the first one I got actually, in this kind of yellow, quite minimalist pattern. But I don't think there's anything else to say on that really. Yeah, I told you the needles. I think that's everything. Not a lot of progress, like I said, on that. Next is my moss stitch blanket. So this is a finger and weight blanket that I'm using a 3.5mm hook on, which seemed like a really good idea in March. There's been times where this has felt like a real slog, but then there are times where it seems to fly off. It kind of seems to alternate by colour. So at the moment I'm quite enjoying it, and I've actually made more progress than I thought I would have. So let me show you. So I haven't got a progress keeper on this, I don't think, but I remember where I was. So this is the blanket so far. So it's, I didn't tell you the yarn I'm using. So Pixie, is it? Let me just check that. Pretty sure it's Pixie yarns. Yeah, Pixie Yarn has a quarterly yarn club called the Footsteps Yarn Club, which is 6 colourways, and you can buy them as minis, you can buy them as 100-gram skeins, or I bought them as 50-gram skeins. And it's not a mystery or anything. It's kind of a circular fade, but she is only revealing each quarter as they come out. I think you can message her to see the full fade if you want to, so if you want to know up front. And I really like you can kind of order it whenever you want throughout the year, so she'll still be dyeing the first quarter towards the end of the year at certain points, so you can kind of jump on when you want to. But this is it so far. So I'm in quarter 2, and I'm on colour 4 of quarter 2. So when I last spoke to you, I was halfway through this brighter yellow colour. I've since then added the first kind of more orangey step, and now we're on to a bright orangey step, which I'd say I'm probably about a third of the way through. So we've kind of very much gone through the greens, gone through the yellows, and now we're kind of moving into the kind of more reddy tones, which I'm enjoying. So I've caked up the next colour. So the next colour is a much more kind of reddy, deeper orange. And then the next colour after that, I haven't caked up yet, just so I don't forget which order they go in. But this is the next one. So you can see it's kind of going almost a bit more purpley, and brightening up again from the previous colour. So the next quarters of this will come out in August. I think the end of August, maybe early September. So I'd like to be done with this quarter by then, but other than that, I don't really have any rush on it. And this is one of the projects I'd kind of like to maybe put more time into the faded undulation for than this. But I find where it's moss stitch, so it's just single crochets and chains. If I want something that's quite mindless, this has been what I'm reaching for, which is why I've made more progress than I thought I would have. But I'm enjoying it, and this is again sticking with the theme in another butternut handmade bag, which I'm still really liking. This is actually, you can see it's kind of, it almost feels like it's bursting at the seams where it's a blanket, and it won't be, I don't think it will all fit in here when I'm at the end of this quarter. So I've actually bought another bag for it, which again, butternut handmade, which I've kind of asked for a custom size to kind of make quite a big one that I can use as a blanket going forward. So I'm excited about that. Hopefully that will turn up before the next time I film, and I can transfer this and put it in a bag that makes a bit more sense. And I just dropped a skein of yarn. Let me pick that up. So let's do this one. So this is my, I said 3.5mm hook for that one. I used the Clover and More hooks for pretty much all of my crochet. So this is another knitting whip. This is the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I've not made as much progress on this as I wanted to. I find where it's a bit of a slower knit, and again, because of the new cast on that I'll talk about in a second, I find that I'm not reaching for this because it's a bit slower. But this is, like I said, the Shift Cowl by Andrea Mowry. I am using 4mm Leica interchangeables. And this is, let me just work out so I show you the right way. So this is how it's working up so far. So the bit I've added since then is this section with the slightly wider white bits. So that's the end of section 2 that I've got to. So I've dropped colour C, which is that lighter one, and then I'm going to add colour B back in. I'm enjoying this. I think where there's increases on every right side row is what's slowing me down, because they're kind of make one left and right, and I find I'm just really slow at make one left or make one right. I prefer kind of a knit front and back kind of thing, but I get why it's done in that way, because obviously I'm knitting on a bias. So this is, I suppose, this, if you don't know the pattern, this is a cowl. So this here is the top corner. It will work down this way and then it will come back around and then you'll seam down this edge. So that's why there's increases on every right side row until you kind of get halfway, and then you're decreasing to get to the other side, which I think will go a lot faster. Oh, try not to get tangled. And this is using 3 colours of Spincycle, dyed in the, is it dyed in the wool? Yeah. Although I don't, is that, I think that's the weight, isn't it, for Spincycle? I think dyed in the wool is the weight. So it's a sport weight yarn. And I am using, so this is colour A. Try not to get too tangled. So we're still in the kind of purpley bit, but it will probably turn kind of a bit more orange soon. This is colour B, where we've kind of started in the orange and we'll turn kind of through greys and browns. And then this is colour C, which is the colour I've just dropped. So we've kind of got through the kind of light stage, and we'll move into some darker greys and then some lighter oranges, which I'm excited about. I get my words out. I'm really enjoying this, and I like knitting on it. Like I said, it's a little bit slower than my other whips, which means I'm not reaching for it quite as much, but I do want to put some progress into this. I think I might kind of challenge myself to finish the whole of section 3 by the time, which will be another kind of repeat of that small dots, larger dots bit. I think, if I've read the pattern correctly. And once again, like a broken record, this is another pattern I handmade. This is a kind of more, I really like this print actually. It's a kind of more minimal with kind of clouds and rainbows. These are the medium sized if you go on their Etsy shop. And I think they're probably perfect for, I'd say like 60% of projects. Kind of not an adult jumper or a blanket, but everything else is probably good in them. Let's talk about my new cast on. So if you've watched any of these before, first of all, thank you for coming back, but you all have known that I have been trying to cast on a hat since before I started making these videos. And I've struggled every time, so every time I've just kind of been showing you the yarn that I want to make a hat of. So this is the bag that's in. This is one of the small butternut handmade bags. And I have successfully cast on and done a good chunk of the ribbing of the Sockhead Hat by, I haven't written who it's by. I'll put their name up on screen, who it's by. I think it's a pretty popular pattern, so you probably have heard of it. And the yarn I'm using for this, so these are on 3.5 16-inch circular Leica needles, which I'll get to in a bit. And I'm using 4-ply 100% superwash merino yarn from Pigment and Ply in the colour Bathing Court of Ladies. So this is the yarn. I've said before in all of my other videos, I just think it's so pretty. And it's knitting up just as pretty as I hoped it would. And here is my ribbing. So this is kind of a folded brim. So you do 4 inches of ribbing before you start on the kind of stockinette bit. So let me put that down there just so I don't get all tangled. So there you go. It's a 2x2 rib. I kind of can't tell you how proud I am of this ribbing. It's the first time I've ever done any ribbing, and it's the first time I've knit in the round. And I find it very, very satisfying, where it's just kind of, you're just going round and you're not having to turn, and it's just knits and purls, and I'm having a great time doing it. I'm really, really happy that I've managed to finally get this on the needles, because before I was kind of trying different techniques, and when it didn't work out properly, I'd just get frustrated and end up just putting it away and then not working on it for another week or two. So now that I'm into it, I can properly get going with it. It's 4 inches of ribbing I need to get to, and I'm at just before 3 inches from the last time I measured, I think. So I might be at 3 inches now. And it's knitting up an absolute dream. It looks kind of exactly like it does in the cake knitted up, which is wonderful. When I last spoke to you, I think I said I was going to try magic loop needles, but for some reason I thought I'm just going to give 16-inch circulars a go. And before, I was trying the Chalgu 16-inch circulars, which have a longer needle on them and then a slightly shorter cable. Whereas these Leica, if I show you, it's actually quite a small needle. You can't see that far away. It's actually quite a short needle and a longer cable. And I find that makes it easier to kind of maneuver around, which was the problem I was having with the Chalgus. So I'm really happy with these. I'm not sure, so when you get to the decreases, obviously you can't keep it on 16-inch the whole time. I'm not sure whether then I'll try Magic Loop, or the pattern suggests DP ends, which I do have in this size. So I might try DP ends. I tried them before, and I think I spoke about that either the last episode or the episode before, where it feels like you need a third set of hands to do, or a third hand, not a third set, to do DP ends. But maybe when I've got some kind of established knitting, I might find it easier. And then eventually I still want to try Magic Loop. I bought some needles to do magic, or I bought some cables to go with my interchangeable set, because I feel like that's a skill that I should learn. But I'm super happy with this. So I'm hoping to finish the ribbing soon. I'll probably finish that in a couple of nights from the speed I'm going at. And then from there, we'll be on the stockinette bit, which I think will fly. And then I'll just have to work out and hope I don't ruin it by doing the decreases. But it's not a super complicated decrease pattern. And I'm also really happy. So I spoke about it a couple of episodes when I was talking about advents. One of the plans I have for one of my advents is what's it called? It's oh my God, I feel like I think about it, the name all the time, and now I can't remember. It's by Jude, who used to be Stranded Dye Works. It is I'll put it up on screen. It's a cowl. That's so annoying. It's a cowl that you knit as a tube and then join together. And now that I know I can do 16-inch circulars, I know I can do that advent project, which I was a bit nervous about because I didn't want to ruin or like not know what to do with my advent yarn. What is it called? I feel like it's something sciencey, but then like the PH cowl sounds silly. I don't know. Like I said, I put up on screen, so you already know. But that is the Sockhead hat, or Sockhead beanie, by the person whose name I put up on the screen earlier. I should write that down in my notes, just so I know it for future. And then my last whip is kind of, whether it classifies as a whip or not is really up for debate. So I spoke to you last week about, or it might be the week before, about some yarn I bought to make a bag for my sister. So this is the Drops Paris 100% cotton in the colourway, it doesn't say on there, colour 67, which I think is oatmeal, but not entirely sure. I bought a bunch of this from a warehouse, and I started making a bag, but I thought I got a bit clever, or I thought I was being clever, and I thought I can ignore the base details, because I thought I remembered how to increase for a kind of oval base without having to look at a pattern. And then turns out I didn't, and it was an absolute wonk. So I ended up having to rip it out, and then that kind of frustrated me. So I thought maybe actually I want to make a different kind of bag rather than one that's just knit or crocheted in the round. So I looked up a pattern for a kind of granny bag. So this is a free pattern where you make these kind of flower granny squares and then you seam them together to make a bag. It uses magic loop for the centre. I didn't want to use magic loop, so I did it using chaining, but then it's ended up with quite a large hole. So it turns out whoever made this pattern knew what they were on about by doing magic circle, magic loop, magic circle. There's too many magic things in Knitting and Crochet. I think we should have we should all sit down and decide on different names. But having made this, I think I'd really like this bag. I think it's a nice granny square, especially if I did them properly. There's actually, I think there's going to be another round added to this, but I stopped at this point. I don't think my sister, so this is a gift knit or a gift make for my sister. I don't think she'd use a bag that was this kind of pattern. I think she would use something more that was a bit minimal, which was the original pattern that I was going to make, which was the Riviera bag by Suzanne Muller. But so now I'm kind of thinking that I might make my own kind of design app. I've got a stitch dictionary. I'm thinking I might just watch a tutorial on how to make the base and how to do those increases. And then when I've got to that kind of width that I want, just finding a stitch in that stitch dictionary to do up the sides and then maybe do a detail at the top and then add on some handles. I think it's going to be my new plan because I think I looked at there's nothing wrong with the Riviera bag pattern, and I looked up a couple of other patterns. I find there's just something about increasing in a kind of circular way in crochet that I always do wrong, and I find when I'm having to follow a pattern quite precisely in crochet that my brain just becomes a bit muddled, where you're having to count because it's not, the needles aren't all, the stitches aren't all live, obviously. I find I'll always make mistakes. I've made a few things that have kind of circular increases in them. Absolutely none of them were done correctly. They all look fine, but none of them were done to pattern. So yeah, I don't know. So this is kind of a whip. It's not really a whip. This is just a single granny square that will probably never go anywhere. And I've still got all of this yarn to make a bag. I might end up holding it double to make something slightly stiffer potentially. But it's kind of, it's really the opposite of a whip. It's not in progress in any way because I've not really decided what I want to do. But I have until just after the 24th of July to get it done because that's when I'm seeing my sister closest to her birthday. So I do need to get going on this. I probably need to put some good amount of time into this going forwards. But we'll see. It's a bit, I have such grand, especially where it's a gift project, I care a lot more about it going right and also being something that would be used rather than, sometimes I make stuff myself and I'm happy for it to just look pretty and sit on a shelf or go in a bag and kind of just, I'm happy that I made it. But if I'm giving it to someone, I want them to use it and to enjoy it. Let me just take. So that is all of my whips. I have a couple of more whips that I'm not gonna speak about, or not because they're like secrets. I'm still working on the Granny Wrap by Annabelle's House, but this month's or June's yarn hasn't come in yet, so I've just not added that, so I'll show that next time because I'm sure the yarn will probably arrive next week. Speaking of yarn arriving though, I've had some yarn arrive. Like I said, it all kind of arrived at once. There's a couple of things here, or one thing was a pre-order, a couple of the kind of monthly clubs that I get, and then one that I thought was a pre-order but ended up coming really quickly, and then another one that I just wanted to buy that I'll do last because it feeds into some of my plans for some things I want to make going forwards. So let's start with the clubs. So I'm part of three yarn clubs. These are both June's colourways. So if you're part of the Cool Woolings Mini Society and the Lottie Woods Mini Fade Club and you haven't had June's colourways yet, look away for a bit or Jump Forward. But these are, I won't turn the better ones, they don't go together. So let's start with the Cool Woolings. So the mood board for Cool Woolings this time was this kind of moody, kind of a lot of greys, kind of tattooing kind of thing. So we've ended up with, I think it's pretty much a fade of these kind of greys with a kind of light there and then going into a black. Black yarn scares me a little bit. It's fine now that I knit. I tried crocheting with it once and it just terrified me. But I think this is a really nice set of neutral, all really nice tones. There we go, it's focusing in. And I'm happy with that. This is, like I said before, this is kind of a yarn club that throws me a bit out of my comfort zone because it's colours that I wouldn't normally buy. But I think these will turn into something quite nice. I think I might, I mean, I've made part of a hat and now I'm just kind of want to make everything into hats. But I think this would probably be quite a nice hat. Kind of fading it together, maybe kind of holding them double and marling them a little bit. Which I think is probably what I'll end up doing with them. But yeah, I'm really, really happy with that. So that's the Cool Woolings Mini Society for June, which is their first yarn club, I think, and I've really enjoyed it so far. Is it for June? Yeah, it is for June. And then this is the Lottie Knits Mini Fade Club, which you get 5, so I should have said, this is 5 20-gram minis. This is also 5 20-gram minis in 80% superwash merino, 20% nylon, kind of sock yarn. And the premise of this is that you get a fade, a 5-colour fade every month. They don't join together across the months, but you kind of get them. And I spoke about it, I think, last video, maybe the video before, about what my plans were for these, but I think I need to rethink it. So at the moment, I'm just collecting them. And this month's is a really nice blue fade. So it starts here on the darkest and then kind of works its way round to this way to this kind of lighter one, which I really like. And maybe this will become a hat as well. Who knows? Maybe that'll be what I end up doing with them. But my original plan was a kind of blanket that just was taking too long with it being finger and weight. So who knows what will happen to that. But that is the Lottie Knits Mini Fade Club. It's the last year that she's going to be doing this. So you can still jump on now if you want to get the second half of the year. And I've been really enjoying them. So next, let's talk about, this was meant to be a pre-order, but I think it ended up coming like a week later. It felt like it came so quickly. So the Crafty Bird was a new to me dyer when she did her Good Omens collection, which I showed a couple of episodes ago. And since then, I've become obsessed, maybe a bit much, but I'm a big fan of the way that she dyes. And she recently did a kind of summer favourites collection where it was kind of old colourways that she'd done, bringing back to kind of dye up for a small bit of time for summer. And one of them was called the Family Madrigal, which is, I don't know if I said that in a weird accent, which is based on the Disney film Encanto. So I'm assuming it was a kind of Disney collection at some point. And I just couldn't not have this colourway. It's so pretty. It's kind of, it's every colour of the rainbow in kind of a muted way, but with some pops of some kind of brighter colours throughout. I bought 3 skeins on their Cozy DK 100% Superwash Merino colourway. And I don't know what I'm going to do with this yet, because I've not used any of the yarn I bought from the Good Omens collection. But what I do know is that I really, really like it. So I'm going to put some thought into it, and I'm going to promise not to cast it on until I've done something with the Good Omens collection. But I just think it's so nice. It's the way that you see it from some dyers. It's kind of true in that Pigment and Ply that I'm making the Sockhead Hat of, where they manage to incorporate almost every colour, and yet it works without looking kind of muddy or kind of blurred too much. So I just think it's really wonderful. I think it's just been shown that they're coming to the Southern Wool Show this year. They might have been there last year actually, and I might have like missed them, but I will be absolutely going to their booth and probably buying some more yarn. So next, so this is a pre-order that I did a while ago in March. So if you can see behind me, this is the, actually I'll just pick it up. This is a corner to corner blanket that I did using the Pigment and Ply Advent from last year. So I just added, so this was the first colour, and then I just added each colour as it went along for the full advent. It's actually not including the last colour because I've miscalculated some of the numbers. And I really, really liked it. And then in March, I can't remember, I want to say her name's Jessica from Pigment Apply, did a pre-order for full skeins of the colourways. And if I'm honest, I wanted a full skein of every colourway. I really enjoyed the advent, but I decided to hold off and just, I still bought 5 skeins, but I tried to hold off and just buy colours that I thought I could make into something again. So if I start with a sock set that I got, so this is on their 75%, 25% superwash merino and nylon sock base. And it comes with 100 grams, which is, I think this is Cupid's Garden, and then this is Sweet Idleness. And I just think they're quite nice kind of autumnal colours. Again, quite a lot of tones in there, but that all really work together really nicely. And my plan is to turn this into a pair of socks. Potentially for me, I think my mum would probably really like this colourway. So potentially my mum. I've never knit a pair of socks before, so it's not really worth thinking about it too much because that might not be this year. I'm hoping to knit a pair of socks this year, but I can't imagine I'll get around to this sock set this year. And then for the next, I went a bit bougie. I was obviously feeling a bit flush back in March because I decided to buy on their 80%, so it's their superwash, it's their merino cashmere nylon blend. So it's 80% superwash merino, 10% cashmere, 10% nylon, DK. I bought 2 skeins of each of these colourways. This is La Viuda Romana. Viuda? It's Italian, which is this kind of wonderfully autumnal kind of oranges with some greens in there, some kind of mustardy yellows, which was, I think, my favourite colourway from the advent. So I had to have this, and then to go with it in a project that is yet to be decided, I got, in the same base, Wilding Muse, which is this kind of tonal, solid, kind of mossy, deep green colourway. My battery is about to run out, so 1 second, I will change my battery and then we will be right back. Bear with. I don't know. How about now? Yeah, that's better. So where was I? I was talking to you about Wilding Muse. So this is the other colour. So this is a kind of, like I said, mossy green, quite kind of deep, a little bit of kind of yellow tones. And I think these go really, really nicely together. And I'm excited to put them into a project together. I don't know what that project's going to be yet. I've got something on that I was going to make a field shawl with, which is by Max the Knitter. And I'm wondering whether this would actually be better and whether I'd actually, but then I also really want to make a field shawl. Maybe I'll make 2 field shawls. But really, really happy with that. Really, really love Pigment Apply's yarns, and really happy that they did full skeins from their advent, because seeing them all as 20 grams, I wanted everything. As a litmus cowl, that is the litmus cowl. That's the name of the project that you'll have already seen, and I just shouted out litmus cowl. The advent project with the 16-inch circulars, it was the litmus cowl by Jude that I want to make. So pH litmus paper is how you test pH. That makes sense. My GCSE science is really showing through. Sorry for just shouting litmus cowl at you. So yeah, so that is this period, and it's very, very soft. Getting it in the merino cashmere nylon base, I think, is an absolute win. So I'm really excited to knit this up into something, maybe crochet up into something. But I find with hand-dyed yarns, I've been wanting to knit more, whereas crochet might be, we'll see. I don't need to think about it now. Probably won't get to them for a while. And then finally, and this will kind of lead into some of my project plans going forward, but I'll start with something that isn't a plan. So if you are a watcher of This Little Wonderful Life, which is a woman called Ali. She also has another channel called, Little Drops of Wonderful, which is her knitting and crochet channel, but then This Little Wonderful Life is her kind of more life vlog channel. She went to and did a collaboration with Lay Family Yarns to dye up a colourway. I think she's the third person to have done this. And I was pretty sure that I would buy this regardless of what the colour was, but it's really, really pretty. A lot of people were expecting her to do kind of a yellow colour, which they mentioned in the videos that they posted about it, which I highly recommend going and watching, because I find people dyeing yarn really, really interesting. But in the end, we ended up with this green colour, which, is that showing up? There we go. So, is that focusing? There we go. And I really, really like it. It's kind of, you've got a lot of shades of green in it, even some kind of more bluey kind of teal colours, which I really, really like. I'm not sure what this will be yet, because it's kind of similar to the greens, at least some of the later greens that I'm using in my Faded Undulation. So I'm not sure what else. I feel like it might be something that would go nicely with that. So maybe a hat. I've done the ribbing for one hat, and I'm just thinking I'm just going to make everything into a hat. Maybe a hat. It's 75% superwash merino, 25% nylon, so it could potentially be socks as well, but I think I want it to be something that is visible rather than something on my feet, because I don't get my socks out very often. I don't really know what I mean by that. But that's the first from some yarn that I got from Lay Family Yarns. Really, really happy with that. And then next, and this kind of leads into plans. So with that, what they also put on their website was some kind of scrap packs. I think they called them something, but really what they are is mini skeins, kind of a random assortment of mini skeins. You got 200 grams of, yes, you got 200 grams of yarn in them, and that was a mixture of 20 gram and 10 gram mini skeins. And then I put them in this kind of Hessian organza bag from Wool Warehouse just to stop the crinkling of the plastic. But this is what I ended up with. So this, I got 2 of the sets. So you'll see there's some kind of mini skeins in there. I mean, you'll see there's mini skeins. There's some mini skeins that are 10 grams at the bottom, and then there's some 20 gram skeins up top. They're all really pretty. I particularly really love this one. I think it's really nice. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about it. So my plan is with these, and I've kind of been collecting mini skeins. My plan is to make a granny square blanket probably next year. So I'm talking about this quite early, but this year what I want to do is get all of the mini skeins so that next year I can just kind of crack on and make it at a kind of steady pace without having to wait for new yarn or wait to find yarn that I want. I made my mum a granny square blanket for Christmas last year using some DK, is up there actually, some Stylecraft yarn. And I really, really enjoyed making that. And then I gave it away. So now I kind of want my own, but I bought some kind of specific colours, solid colours for that, and made a kind of colour palette. Whereas this, I think I want the granny squares to all just be one colour squares that I then join up a bit more randomly. And where I've got 10 gram skeins here and 20 grams, I think I'm going to make the granny squares as close to using 10 grams as I can to use up as much of those. And then I'll either make 2 using the 20 gram skeins, or I'll put those into a kind of magic knot ball for another kind of scrappy project going on. Because I've got a couple of magic knot balls that I've already made from other projects that I plan to put into a kind of granny stripe scrappy blanket at some point. So that's those. That's the last of the haul and kind of the start of the project plans. And really the main project plan, to be honest. I'm kind of in a process where I'm thinking about gift makes for Christmas, which might feel a bit early because it is July, but this time last year was when I started making stuff for my family. I made my nephew a couple of baskets and some small little amigurumi, and then my mum and my sister both got a blanket. I'm not going to make anyone blankets this year because that would be a bit much, and I have too many blankets, so I can't just start giving my family blankets just so I get to make them. I don't think they'd appreciate that. So I think I want to make my dad something. He builds furniture for a living, or makes. makes or build, I suppose builds makes it sound like it could be IKEA. He like makes furniture for a living. And he works in it looks quite cold where he works all the time. So I might make him some kind of scarf or cowl. Maybe a cowl actually, maybe a kind of more thicker one that's kind of goes over once using some of the yarn I've got. Oh, I think he'd really like that actually. Maybe that'll be what I do. Maybe I don't need, I was kind of asking because I was going to ask for some advice, but maybe now I figured it out. But it's interesting. I don't know if I'm thinking about it too early. Last year I kind of panicked and then I was making something else and I thought I need to stop, I need to make Christmas gifts. But I might not need to this year if I'm only making one thing. I'll make my nephew something as well. It's his 3rd Christmas and it's his first where he'll be kind of a bit more engaged. So I'll make him something. And then I might make someone else something as well. We'll see. I might make a friend of mine something, just kind of give me some motivation to make something a little bit different. It may be some of the colourways I've got that aren't as me, potentially. I've got some boucle yarn up there that might be a good gift now, actually. Ooh. I don't need to decide right now because it is July, but I'm interested. Let me know, have you started thinking about gift knits? Is it a bit too early? Am I a bit mad? Have you already started? And actually I'm way behind and I'm just going to fail miserably at making anything in time. Be good to know. Let me know in a comment down below. But other than that, I think that is everything. So if you're still watching, thank you so much. I'll probably be back. I should be back in 2 weeks from this. I'll try and stick to the kind of once every other week schedule, kind of. But if life comes up, it might be a little bit longer. But I don't think anything's happening that will stop me filming one of these in the next couple of weeks, so it should be good. But like I said, leave a comment down below if you've got any advice or plans for gift knitting, or if you just have any thoughts on any of the yarn that I got, any of the things that I'm making, any advice, I say criticisms, but I mean, maybe no criticisms, please. I don't know what you criticise. And if you're not subscribed, it would be wonderful if you could. That'd be amazing. And it would be wonderful if you enjoyed this video to also leave a like and comment down below and let me know whatever you want. I mean, it's a free country. I mean, hopefully where you live it is. Comment what you like. That'd be great. But other than that, thank you so much for watching and I will see you next time. Bye-bye.